lap time was 46.66. Sector 3 is 0.38. Slower than your best. Sector 1 time is good. Sector 2 time is okay. Your lap time was at 45.41. That's your quickest lap in this session.
Race Room, Ihre Partner für professionelle Racing-Simulatoren. Für zu kaufen oder für zu lohnen. Kommt sie einfach testen. Bei Race Room vom 1. April und zum Monerisch auf der ACL Kartingspiste. Erschlasser mat de Systemer vu Baving Security Solutions, clever, online, immer a von überall steuern. Baving Security Solutions. Guckt op baving.delu. Race Room, Ihre Partner für professionelle Racing-Simulatoren. Für zu kaufen oder für zu lohnen, kommt sie einfach testen. Bei Race Room vom 1. April und zum Monerisch auf der ACL Kartingspiste.
What does it mean to be a game changer?
It's about proving everyone wrong.
Is it about flipping the script?
It's never taking no for an answer.
It's about standing up, speaking out, and never stopping until the job is done.
Well, hello everyone and welcome along to the ACL Challenge Season 2. Should be a fantastic competition, this one that combines not only the simulated world but also a little bit of the world of karting as well. Should be an awful lot of fun. But focusing on today, we're heading to the Falkenberg Motorbana here in Sweden. It's a difficult circuit. It's not one that I'm sure too many of our competitors are going to be too familiar with, but it should be a lot of fun. In the commentary booth, it's myself, Lewis McGlade, and alongside me is someone who has plenty of esports experience in the elite side of things here on Race Room Racing Experience, but also plenty of karting experience as well. It is, of course, Zach Sweeney. This should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Won't be very experienced with the circuit, Lewis. You can definitely bet that I don't either. But yeah, certainly should be a lot of fun. And of course, Race Room. That, you know, some of the top end people can really put on a good show. So I'm sure tonight will be no different.
Yes, indeed. Well, I mean, this is quite an open circuit. It's one, like I say, not too many of our competitors have too much of a familiarity with. I've had a little bit with back in the day, obviously a very, very long time ago. When it comes to overtaking opportunities, it's sort of the first sector you've got some, but it's quite tight. This is the problem, is you've got that chicane, but then all the way around the back end of the circuit, it's very, very narrow, very tricky to get side by side, and so you kind of need to be quite bold and quite committed. We'll head straight into qualifying as well, because we've got a 10-minute qualifying session into two 20-minute races. It's not a long evening of action. It's going to be absolutely thrilling and wall-to-wall action left, right and centre, I have no doubt.
Straight after the other, they don't really have much time to sort of breathe. You know, it's quali straight into race 1 and then reverse grid straight into race 2. And you know, they're 20-minute races, they're sprint races. They are meant to get the adrenaline running. They are meant to be tense and a driver's skill and of course their racecraft, their patience, because as you said, that first sector of this track, you know, it looks pretty simple on paper, but the undulation.
Well, as we lose Zach Sweeney there, we'll come back to him in a little bit. Either way, like I said, it's a very undulating race circuit. It's narrow. It's a lot of fun though. When you get into the rhythm, it is an awful lot of fun. You just need to be very, very brave indeed. The 10-minute qualifying session is going to be super, super important because obviously it's going to decide the entirety of the track position for the first race, and that is going to be critical around here, purely based on the fact that it is quite difficult to overtake. If memory serves, it has been a very long time. A race was played back in 2013, which, when every time I look at the date, is not far off 10 years ago. So, you know, each their own on that one. But, you know, here in Sweden, I'll talk a little bit about the competition overall, because in this round, once we're finished here, we're going to open up the qualifyings for the next round of the season, which will be at Sonoma. There's only 2 online esports rounds before the ACL Challenge will head into real life and such. On the 9th and 10th of July, they'll be racing on the ACL karting simulators in the Motorkanj karting track. And then they will, the week after, the finalists that move on through that will take to the ACL karts as well to finalise the competition. So this season essentially will move from the sim to a sim in person to karts, all in one big competition. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. I have absolutely no doubt. It's just kind of one of those things that you see various competitions and stuff in esports trying the odd little change every now and then to try and bring something new. And the ACL, obviously the Automobile Club de Luxembourg, bringing something ever so slightly different to the table, to just try and give the competitors something else to try and see what they can bring to their competition. Hopefully qualifying will be underway in just a second. It should be on the hour at 6 o'clock my time, so obviously 7 o'clock in Europe, where we'll head our way around the circuit. We get to see it in action for the very first time, and then we'll have those 2 20-minute races. No pit stops or anything required. It is just going to be frantic action from the very start to the very end. It's exactly what we like from the style of racing like this. All the drivers are Luxembourg based, and of course it's kind of the entire point of the competition, it being ACL, the Automobile Club de Luxembourg. And it's not a long circuit. You can kind of get the vibe just based on that start-finish straight, running through the chicane and stuff. It's really not very long. The qualifying times to get in, you're talking in the 44 seconds to get into this. It's quite a lot shorter than when we head to Sonoma next round. The 2 races, by the way, as well, just to speak of. Qualifying will obviously set the order for the first race. The second race will be decided by a full reverse grid, which, I mean, that is just very, very brave. About 25 or so competitors taking to the circuit today, which a full reverse grid on a circuit like this, you're opening yourselves up to carnage is not the right word, because the drivers that we have are obviously very, very good, but it's dicey, shall we say, for want of a better word. And so in that sense, if you finish in the mid-pack, you're not necessarily in the worst position that you possibly could be in. You've got yourselves opened up to some potential opportunities to move forward from a midpoint, and it's all about point scores. Those that will move through into that the simulators that I was speaking about in Montecarlo, that is all dealt with through the point standings of these races. So we've got 2 races here, and then we'll have 2 races in the next round at Sonoma, and that will essentially make a little 4-round esports championship that will then move to the real world sims in, which will be an awful lot of fun. As we can see here, we've got Ludo De Monte, who's on screen at the moment. The fastest time, this is in qualifying by the way, the fastest time in pre-qualifying was a 44.701 by Tom Valentini. So we'll have to see what they can do when it gets close to that. I'd say that in all likelihood they're probably not going to get quite to those times. You can do an awful lot of laps in pre-qualifying around a circuit like this, because obviously it's not very long. It's not like doing laps around the Nordschleife where it takes you half an hour to really set up a decent stint, let alone getting some decent times on the board. Around here you can just lap over and over and over again. You can lose hours just continually turning laps. There is Valentini, who topped the pre-qualifying times in the session at the moment. De Monte doing that 45.2. Valentini doing a 45.0, so 3/10 off what was done previously. But you can also tell that with it being an open qualifying session like this, it's really, really busy out there on circuit. Fabio Alves presently on screen in the mid-pack. I wouldn't say these times are particularly representative at the moment. All of our competitors that got through into this, every single one of them set a lap time within a second, and so the likelihood is that this is going to be a very, very tight qualifying session. Prevost now goes up. Oh, that's a very good time, a 7.89, absolutely superb by Prevost, who I can't remember where he was in. Thibaut Prevost was actually second in the pre-qualifiers with a 7.82, so just 7 thousandths of a second behind that. That is an absolutely superb lap time right there, and I mean that is going to take some beating. You know, not far off, about as good as you can get around here. When you can match your pre-qualifying time that closely, really does say a lot about just the ability to wrestle the car around this racetrack, and Thibaut Prevost doing that in spades right now. Quarter of a second up on pole. There's a little bit of lap traffic departing the pit lane directly ahead. Valentini and De Monte behind with Velter, and then Laya, Becker, Forte, Mertz. There was the move from Laya up now into second position, so onto the front row of the grid, which could be all important for this very first race. A little bit later on. Decent first sector though from Tom Valentini, who's just heading now around the back end of the circuit. Hopefully we'll have Zach Sweeney in the commentary booth once again.
Are we here?
We are.
Oh, here we go. Thankfully. Right, we're here. Hello, everyone. Yeah, so far, so good, it seems, in qualifying. And, you know, most particularly, it's really, really close. Of course, that was to be expected as Valentini goes in within, you know, a tenth of a second of Prevost in front. So just goes to show how close these guys really are.
Yeah, absolutely super. Look at that, kicking out the oversteer as well, directly ahead. Absolutely on the limit. These, you know, the Mercedes that they're in at the moment, obviously these are GT4s, which I've said time and time again. Everyone tells me it's like, oh yeah, well, GT4, it's the pathway into GT3s and stuff. I'd argue it's not 100% the case, but in certain ways, GT4s are actually a little bit harder to drive in some ways than GT3s. They're a lot more slidey. You don't have as much power, you don't have as much downforce, fair enough, but they do slip and slide through the corners snap quite a lot. But they are very, very catchable. So, you know, at least there's that. Luca Becker out of the final corner down towards the line, the Protocharged Sim Sport car, up into second place. Great lap time from Becker. And presently in that position, though, still for the lead, Prevost on a 44.789. Valentini is within a tenth. And is right in the full swing, and really is trying to march his way into that sort of pole battle once again. With 4.5 minutes left in this session, it's very, very tight at the top, but I do suspect we are going to see a much tighter end to this session, because it's always how it goes around circuits. So this is, you know, comparatively in the European, in sort of Europeans, probably not the best. And well, as we'll carry on. As Becker has just been beaten by Laya. Prevost also up on that pole, 44.789 at present. Like you say, going very, very strongly indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Am I here? Can we be
we
heard?
can.
We can. Thankfully, right. I am very, very sorry, ladies and gents, and of course to Lewis as well, who's done a phenomenal job despite his unfortunate feeling ill at the moment, it must be said. So yeah, he's done a great job, but yeah, it is incredibly close at the moment, especially towards the sharp end. You know, the top four separated by under a tenth of a second, Lewis. It's not very often that you get that sort of thing happening.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I was going to draw the comparison between this circuit and Brands Indy in that sense that it is incredibly close. It's very, very tight margins. It's not very long. It's open to the opportunity of just crazy things to happen. It's kind of why we like circuits like this, is it just completely throws the order right up into the mix.
Absolutely, the shorter circuits, you have less opportunity to actually, you know, get those moves done and to actually get the time back gained, as you say, similar to Brands Indy. So yeah, it does put a lot of things on the line, because if you mess up one corner, you can't then. It's not like other circuits, you know, where you can get that time back later in the lap. You mess up one corner, you've pretty much messed up the entire lap. Similar to how Mertz has just done there, running a little bit wide. That costs you, you know, say half a tenth. Not a massive deal at circuits like Silverstone or Spa, but around here that costs you your entire lap.
Yes, indeed. A little bit of a wiggle there from Valentini, who's still around massive margin of 3/4 of a tenth off of pole. And you can see this lap's been invalidated because there is no second sector up right now. Typically with a session like this, they will just stay out on the racetrack for the entirety of the session. and you can see a little bit of traffic coming out of the pit lane right in front of him. I think that was Nico Kuras, who's just dropped behind, in fact, so not too much of a deal, but you're getting distracted left, right and centre constantly by all the cars coming out of pit lane. It's so hard to stay basically tunnel focused on what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's that thing. You know, sometimes it can work in your benefit. Of course, at certain tracks, it helps to have someone in front of you, whether that be for slipstream, but also you have someone to chase. It's sort of, you almost go into that sort of race mode. You put your race number on, you absolutely go, and you want to go and catch them, which can, in some sense, help you. But in other sense, you know, they make a mistake out in front of you. You can see that, you react to it, and again, it just slows you down. So you know, it comes down to personal preference. Some drivers will want a nice clear track in front of them. Some drivers will want someone to chase, but it certainly doesn't help that they have over 20, 25 other cars on circuit with them, that around a short circuit as well, it will certainly get busy.
Well, there was that improvement from Valentini, who's now got up into third, 400ths of a second off of that time from Prevost. I've got to say, though, when it comes to pre-qual, I mean, you know this from doing pre-qualifying and stuff for various competitions and then having to try and repeat the feat in an actual qualifying session. For him to have got within 7 thousandths of a second from that time to getting into the event, that is very impressive, as Valentini runs way too wide at the final corner, and they're all starting to begin their final laps now. But yeah, you know how difficult that is.
Absolutely, it's one thing to do it once, it's another thing to do it twice. You know, you sort of use up all your luck on the pre-qualifying, but for what Valentini is doing is to get so close once and then deliver once again. It goes to show that it wasn't a fluke, and he can repeat that, and then it makes you look better, because it shows that you can repeat it, you can do it more than once, and overall you will deliver when it counts.
Well, we can see here the qualifying order popping up onto the screen. Prevost on that pole. There is still 20 seconds left, so we might still see some times coming in at the moment to sort of decide things in this session. Got that last one coming out of the corner, final corner from Valentini, and is there going to be any improvement from him across the line? The answer is no. Prevost has the pole. We've got 2 races coming up, the first of which will be up after this.
Race Room, Ihre Partner für professionelle Racing-Simulatoren. Für zu kaufen oder für zu lohnen, kommt sie einfach testen. Bei Race Room vom 1. April und zum Monerisch auf der ACL Kartingspiste.
Wow, I mean, what a super session there. Thibaut Prevost on the pole. Absolutely superb lap time right there. To have got that close. But the thing is, we kind of say this all the time, we know how this goes. Qualifying is one thing, racing is a very different thing. And the start down towards turn 1, you know how crucial it is. You know how aggressive they're going to get. And it is going to be an incredibly tight run down into the first corner. And I don't really know what to expect from this. The side-by-side is going to be tricky. It is a chicane to open the lap. But then you start rising up over the hill and then back down once again. We'll see what can happen, though. It is a 20-minute race. This one will lead into a reverse grid race after this. So 2 fantastic, thrilling races this evening. I don't know what we can expect from it other than just quality action. Someone has not gone to the grid, though, in that second spot. Is that Valentini, who hasn't actually headed to the grid? I'm not 100% sure myself, but either way, we'll be underway in just a second. Actually, no, it would be Laya, rather, from the front row of the grid. And he's actually received a drive-through penalty as well for a false start in the pit lane. What an absolute calamitous affair from Daniel Laya. But we are underway in the ACL Challenge of 2022, and that race down towards turn 1 has Prevost leading from Valentini. Demonte's managed to get up into third position, and there's plenty of side-by-side in the background. It still continues, but at the front it is a nice clean start from Thibaut Prevost. Valentini, though, right in the mix, and this is it. Where do we get those overtaking opportunities? It's so tricky to pass around here.
Yeah, absolutely. You just got to get a good start. That's exactly what Prevost has done. But Valentini is in hot pursuit. Same to Demont and Becker close behind. It's just getting your head down, getting into a rhythm and settling in. You know, it's difficult to overtake around here. Prevost will know that. He just needs to keep his head cool and limit the mistakes from here. But Valentini needs to capitalise on any opportunity that he can get his hands on.
Yeah, indeed. Well, first lap already in the books. That is how quick it is around here at Valkenburg. Absolutely superb. A little bit of side-by-side in the background. I think that might have been Chorus looking to the inside to try and make a move there for about 6th position. But right now, Prevost is hanging on to the race lead. This is looking back at Mertz. You can see Chorus in the background with Carmen Forte looking straight to the inside, going through sort of like the third corner complex. Not able to make a pass, but now we head on to what is effectively the back stretch. Down into this sort of long right-hander, punch it out here, and we're headed towards the final corner already. Where can Carmen Forte find that move? Is it down the inside of the final corner? It's a little bit too high on the average speed, and Cora's taking that late apex.
Yeah, absolutely. Just got to get that exit. Make sure you're not vulnerable down in towards any braking zone, because that's where the moves will be made. But Forte doing everything he can, just trying to put the pressure on. You could see going in very deep into that final corner. Again, apply that psychological pressure as behind as well. Teo looking to make a move. And that's the thing with how close, how short this circuit is. You're going to get these packs start to form, and you might get 3, 4, maybe even 5 people getting into their own little battles. And that's when things can get slightly dangerous.
I don't know if you call it on the start-finish straight there, but there was an aggressive move from Prevost to try and break the slipstream of all those behind. This is Bremeier, who's currently in 14th position at the moment. You've got Daniel de Cruz Picciotto directly ahead, who is under so much pressure right now. Also got a little bit of attack a couple of positions back as Jeff Jans is under pressure from Fabio Alves as well. This is just how it's going to be all the way through this 20-minute race, though. It is just going to be intense. And it's kind of one of those things. Oh my goodness, that is a massive moment from Picciotto, and he has just spun straight into the side of Bremeier and continues to spin.
Yeah, you thought he had it. He did a nice little pirouette to bring it back 360. A bit more calamity further up as well through turns 1 and 2. Not entirely sure who that is. Oh, that was a dangerous rejoin coming up right into the mix of everyone else. That's Velter rejoining, and just look at the calamity it's caused. That's how big the grid is. That's how busy it gets, and bringing it back onto the circuit there probably wasn't the best thing to be doing. Yeah,
Mark Huberty as well, trying to find the way past now in 19th in that white, yellow and black Mercedes at the head of this grid. Saying Mercedes is completely pointless and irrelevant in this one, but I'll still say it anyway. There he is, starting from the final position on the grid. Started this one from 25th, so already up into 19th, keeping the gaggle behind. It's Cesar Almeida, then Daniel Lyer, who, having started from the pit lane, also having that penalty as well for a false start. It has not been a good race for the driver. Essentially qualified in second, and oh no, goodness me, a disqualification for ignoring a drive-through penalty. Goodness me for Goncalves.
Cannot be doing that. That is just a clumsy mistake, and that brings their race 1 to a very premature end, which is unfortunate, of course, because it would have been interesting to see how they would have got on. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Of course, racing drivers, they're subject to silly mistakes from time to time. But yeah, that certainly is a costly one. This is the battle for third between Demont, Becker, and Becker as well, just a little bit further back. A 3-car train. Again, we saw that. We're going to say that people will break off into these sort of these triplet fights, but the interesting thing is, will they work as a 3 to try and catch the front 2, or will they fight amongst themselves for the top 3?
I mean, for me, if I'm 5th in this line, if I'm Mark Becker, and this is obviously not what's going to happen, but I'm just saying, and to be fair, this is easy. This is what I'm saying from the lofty position here in the commentary booth, where it's very easy to make just rolling judgments on people. What I would do in that scenario is hold position. I wouldn't take part in this battle. If they fight and they spin each other out, great, I finish 3rd. If I finish 5th, that's fine. It means that I'm going to start from 21st in the next race, the full reverse grid, so you're ahead of quite a lot of these people. That's good. Yes, you're obviously going to be in the danger zone. You're going to be in the danger zone anyway, but you're putting yourself in a position where you're hoovering up decent points. Either way, Mark Becker's trying to get around the outside of the first chicane. Oh, it's going all the way around the outside of that first corner. Absolutely super stuff. Becker on Becker action right now. Mark Becker straight around the outside of Luca Becker. Absolutely super move.
Oh, great respect between the two of them. But yeah, Mark Becker really capitalising on that one, going in deep towards turn 1. And is that Valentini with a drive-through penalty for ignoring slowdown warnings? He's in second place, just 5 tenths off the race lead. He's going to tumble down this order.
Now, I hope you do know, because you have done some esports competition on racing. What does it mean by ignoring slowdown warnings?
Right, so if you extend the track a little bit too much, you don't get well, you do get cut warnings, but if you do a little bit too much, as Luca Becker is coming back and Mark Becker towards turn 1, just trying to get that 4th place back to the inside. And again, Mark Becker going to go the long way around, keep him honest, still side by side, deja vu once again, but Luca Becker just has to tuck in. But yeah, you get cut warnings if you go a little bit outside the track limits. You go way off and gain time, the game says you got to slow down, you got to give that time back up. And for Valentini, he's not given that time back up in the time you get allowed. You get sort of 25-30 seconds to actually slow down and mitigate that time. He unfortunately hasn't done that, and well, it's a drive through the pit lane for him.
Yeah, which is not ideal. Also, you can receive a disqualification from the event for exceeding incident limits and stuff, i.e. you get those from track limit excursions, from contact and stuff. There's a few ways that you can pick those up. And so they've got to be a bit mindful of all of that. But I can guarantee that slowdown has come through the opening chicane, which Luca Becker is once again looking to the inside of Mark Becker. This all for 4th position. It's allowed DeMonte to just pull away right now for that 3rd position. And if they battle too hard, they'll drag Mertz and Kouros and Carmen Forta back into this battle for 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw how much they lost. Again, because it's a short circuit, you lose any time fighting. You lose a lot of time relative to the lap, and they've already lost a couple of seconds to DeMont just in their couple of laps of fighting, and that certainly will bring Mertz and Kouros into the mix. This is Zakaria in P10 on the back of Teo and Hasmikel, just a couple of tenths back. And again, they are just locked so tight in these battles because of the toe keeping them nice and cushy together. But yeah, as Valentini now comes through for his drive-through, let's see where he comes out and if he can recover, because he's still got 12 and a half minutes, about 12 minutes and 50 seconds left in this race. It's not all over.
No, definitely not, and it's not even taking. I know the pit lane around here is not very long. It's one of the joys of these. It's essentially, when there are circuits like this long and stuff in Sweden, there's Valentini straight on the attack of Bemaya. Basically, they're club circuits. It's not designed to be raced in Formula One and have a capacity pit lane that will hold enough to have a 24-hour endurance race around here. It's not in that vein. That's not what this circuit is about, which kind of means that when you get a drive-through pit like that, it's a lot less painful than getting, for example, a drive-through at Monza or Silverstone, anywhere like that, where the FIA Grade 1 circuits where you're going to get into an awful lot of trouble. As there is a look to the inside, that is Zakaria looking straight to the inside, trying to get past Mikel, and then backs out of it. But that would have been a little bit of a dicey one. It looked like it was quite late.
It was one of those sort of, I'm going to have a look, and if it pays off, it pays off. But we were talking about how these packs, of course, are going to, create themselves throughout the race. This is also, as you say, similar to the club-style pit lane here. It's also going to play into Valentini's hands that everyone is so close together. It means he can just stay back, be patient, and pick his way through nicely, and then look forward, and he's got, okay, there's another 3-4 cars up in front, only a couple of seconds up. So it shouldn't be too difficult, especially with the pace he has, to start to pick his way forward. The crucial thing is not to make a mistake, a similar mistake that he made a little bit earlier on, but also to maintain that consistency, keep his head cool, and not get desperate, because a driver in his situation, from my own experience, having a drive through your race being practically ruined, desperation does start to creep in pretty quickly.
Have you had drive-throughs in your races?
No.
Have you ever had one?
Absolutely not. No, I haven't.
Oh yeah, you've been almost a good boy. I had a drive. One of the last esports things that I did, I got a drive-through for serving a drive-through, and I was like, no, I'm never doing that again. Either way, Mark Becker is under a lot of pressure still from Luca Becker. These two basically being a bit of the stars of the show at the moment, just how close they are and how little they're separated. And there is the drag off the final corner from Luca Becker once again to the inside, going down into that first corner. It's got to be a big commitment.
It really has. You've got to go for it. You've got to commit under brakes very nicely. Luca knows how well Mark Becker can be under brakes to just sail around the outside. So he knew needed to get to the apex first, needed to claim the corner first, and then can move forward. But yeah, these two really going at it. But Mertz is only about 1.5 seconds back now. If they continue to fight, this will very quickly become a 3-horse race for that final podium place, which, as we always say, you set yourself a couple of milestones. At this level of esports, getting a podium finish certainly is no mean feat. So they're going to be fighting for it, tooth and nail.
Yeah, and courtesy of that drive-through penalty from Valentini, this has become the battle for the podium. It wasn't originally, it was just for 4th, at which point, like you say, 4th or 5th, they're both top 5 in my book. I'll take either, thanks. But now it's for a podium. Yeah, that's something a bit different. You want to kick off not only to get a podium in the series, that's great, but also it's the first round of the series. To get a podium in that, to already start getting some decent points onto the board. When it comes to the esports competition that we've got online in this side of the ACL challenge, we're only here for 4 races. It's 2 races tonight, and then in a couple of weeks we've got 2 more races, and that's it when it comes to the esports online racing here. It's not long. You can't afford to just lose a whole heap of points.
Absolutely, you know, each race takes up a higher percentage of the total points, so you need to deliver week in, week out. You know, you get off, you go to some seasons, it's like, okay, it's only the start of the season, we can recover. But no, in this, only 4 races, you've got to get off and get that ball rolling quickly. And to start the season on a good foot, on some good positive results, as we can see to the inside goes Alves at that final corner. We've seen that done, how some drivers can take a nice tight line coming out of the final corner. It really does give them a shorter drive and a better line coming down the pit straight. That's what Fabio Alves has done to full effect there. But yeah, you really just have to get this season off to a good start, and they will carry that forward for the final 3 races as well. Way
too deep at the T1. Oh no, for Jeff Jans. That is such a shame to have been spun out a little bit too deep there from Alves, and it was just too deep into the first corner. As he's coming back on, a little bit in the way. Matheus Pereira straight into the rear end of Jeff Jans. I mean, I don't want to be too critical against Matheus Pereira because I kind of get it, but like he's trying to drive it in as well, already committed to his line, and then you've got Alves who's gone in too deep and is trying to stay on the circuit. The Constantine effect are always going to close up like that, and it's also quite hard as well when you're a third car in the line. You can't really see what the leader's doing, whether they have gone deep or not, and so you've kind of already committed that contact was always going to happen, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Pereira just went in, doing his normal thing. Of course, predicted what the front 2 were doing to do, and you can't predict, Alves to make a mistake like that. And yeah, that's just one of those unfortunate things that happened with motorsports, and Pereira can't be blamed for that. Unfortunately, looking a bit further up, we got Teo versus Mikel. This is for 8th place. Again, it's both the top 10. Every point counts here and there. But thinking of the reverse grid race, will Mikel want this place? Will he just stay behind to be in a better position for the reverse grid race? I mean, it's only a couple of points lost, and being 1 place further in the reverse grid race means that you're sort of slightly less in the traffic. Will that be something that Mikel will be playing on in his mind?
Yeah, I don't think so. Not in this. Like, okay, the reason why is because it's only one position, and it's a full reverse grid. If this was to do with, there's the switch back underneath, that was lovely from Tom Mikel to get to the inside of Theo. That was absolutely superb. Just well read in all of that. But if this was only a top 10 reverse grid, then yeah, maybe I'd actually kind of be thinking in that vein, because you're starting then on the front row, whereas versus you've got a clean run ahead versus being a couple of rows back from trying to make those moves. Whereas when it's a full reverse grid, I mean, you're either going to be starting 15th or 16th or 17th. It's like, I mean, neither's great, so I might as well take some points from this race anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see Valentini making some progress already back inside the top 10. He wants to make it the top 9. Going to look to go around the outside of turns 1 and 2. Has to tuck in behind. Is he going to go for the double switch through? Get that better drive off. Through turn 3, he's going to do exactly what Teo and Mikel did a lap previously. He's going to go underneath them, still side by side as they continue through 4 and into 5. Still side by side, Valentini and Teo, giving us a nice little fight. But Valentini's pace, he had the line, he had the commitment, and up into P9.
Absolutely brilliant. Again, I mean, the race that we've been having in the opening 14 minutes of this season has been absolutely top-notch. Like, around such a circuit that is difficult to race at, they have been putting on a show. Valentini really working his way back up the order, of course, having served that drive-through penalty. Lyra as well, who is in now 16th position with a fair amount of clean air, but I think obviously courtesy, so it probably has a little bit of damage, which will affect you a fair amount. Oh, who's that running quite deep into the first corner? Was that someone going a lap down? I think it was Mark Huberty.
There we go then. That is a question. And it is probably difficult for lap traffic to actually move out of the way here, because you don't exactly have much space to move. And of course, with a lot of cars coming through, you have to back off one, then you have to back off for another, and then it can be quite overwhelming. So yeah, Huberty doing a good job just to move out of the way. But I'm not entirely sure they have damage on in this, to be completely honest. So if they have taken a couple of bumps or scrapes, I don't think it will affect them too much.
I mean, it could affect confidence though. That's
absolutely, that is true.
Still, it does seem like it's quite a high confidence circuit. I mean, I have raced here in front wheel drive, so each their own. But you've got a few corners in here which are a little bit trickier to read. Look at the final corner. How many times have we seen cars drop a couple of wheels on the exit? The chicane, it's very easy to overcommit into it. So it does seem like you need a bit of confidence to keep you in the rhythm around it.
And it will be that rhythm that keeps him going. You know, it's so easy at some tracks to get back into that rhythm. But a short circuit like this one, yeah, it can be slightly more difficult. You just have to go in with the confidence as Leia gets another drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So it's a similar one to you, Lewis, that you go in to serve it and then get another one. And that is probably going to be one of those moments where he's like, yeah, nah.
Yeah, nah is right. Yeah, no, it was at Silverstone where I did that, so it was a top effort. So it's something that you do once and then you choose not to do again, unless, you know, some people who I've seen receive a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane and then get another one, and then get another one, and then get another one. Like, whilst constantly, I'm like, oh, okay, right, okay. Clearly there is no pit speed limit button, but fair enough. Yeah, each their own. But yeah, you do that once and then you learn from it very, very quickly. Here is Luca Becker. He's been able to pull away to the tune of 2.5 seconds from Mark Becker this time, and chewing down the gap on Ludo De Monte for second position. Not satisfied with the bottom step on the rostrum, wants at least the middle one.
Yeah, absolutely. He's gunning for it, isn't he? He's really put in some good laps over the course of the last few. And because it's just such a short circuit, it is difficult to close that gap. But he's absolutely said no to that one and has really started to put some decent laps in. But only 3.5 minutes left to go. He is going to be running out of time. That's probably, what, 45-second lap, probably, you know, 6-7-ish laps maybe left in this race, maybe 8 at a push. So he's running out of time, and there, of course, there isn't much opportunity to get that move done. But the pace that he's closing on Demont, you have to say it's probably a matter of if as opposed to a matter of when.
Yeah,
or when rather than if, sorry.
Yeah, certainly so. 6-second lead, though, that Prevost got. So completely checked out with 3 minutes left on the clock. With it being 45-ish second laps, we're really looking at it being sort of about four and a bit laps left to go. It might be 5, which is just mad to see with 3 minutes left on the clock, and it's still like you still got to do this lap 5 times more potentially. It means there's so many more overtaking opportunities for these to try and find their way through. And Luca Becker, the pace in this half of the race has been absolutely on it.
Really has been putting in the laps where they count and has just been pushing, gunning for it. But of course, Preva, absolutely no discredit to him. He is gone. He of course, he had the pressure from Valentini a little bit earlier on. Didn't come to that at all, and has just pressed on, head forward, no mistakes since the start of the race, and has pulled out a 6-second gap, which is just vastly impressive. But yeah, our eyes at the moment is this fight for second place. But yeah, Luca Becker actually slower on that previous lap compared to Demont, but we'll have to see how that one transpires, because he well and truly is now going to be starting to pick up with the toe, and with that lap traffic in front, that will certainly get in Demont's way slightly. Could that be what Luca Becker capitalises on?
That is the best laps of them, by the way, the 45.2. The current laps are doing it's not much slower, by the way, but it was a 45.4 from Ludo De Monte, and then Luca Becker did a 45.3. Our race leader, Thibaut Prevost, did a 45.5. Oh, goodness me. Big kick of oversteer there from Luca Becker coming out in the final corner. Into the slipstream then. 1 minute and 40 seconds left to go. Definitely 3 more laps from this point. And where does Ludo De Monte find a way through? This lap, once again, closed in an extra 0.3 of a second, did Luca Becker. Absolutely flying. And again, it was a 45.7 for Ludo De Monte. It was a 45.7 again for Thibaut Prevost. So I don't know if they're just overheating the tyres. I know obviously tyre wears as a percentage is not too high, or even on, but the heat is still a big factor.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Something I've come to love and hate, well, whatever. Tire temperature, just it can be your best friend, it can be your worst enemy, and yeah, it's something you do have to contest with. Sometimes over the course of a stint you feel your tires getting off, but they're still sort of at a stable temperature. Doesn't matter what wear they're at or how much they've degraded by. If they're boiling hot, you will start to feel them slide away, and that might be what Luca Beck is starting to feel in these last couple of laps. That he's pushed so hard to catch up that those tires have sort of taken a hit, have warmed up a little bit, and you can see physically in his driving that he's starting to slide around a little bit, and that will cause then a negative feedback loop. The more he slides, the more warm they get, and then the more he slides again, and that really just won't help him at all.
Well, Thibaut Prevost on the penultimate lap of the race. I think you're absolutely right, because Luca Becker's last lap was a 45.9. It was half a second slower than Ludo De Monte. I think that you're absolutely right. It's just pushed maybe a little bit too hard in closing in, and has maybe overdriven it right now. Prevost onto the final lap of the race has just been completely dominant. A little bit of flashing lights to try and get this back marker out of the way. He doesn't move.
Well, that is certainly suboptimal, but yeah, he's got the gap behind, so he can afford to sit back. He doesn't need to do any risk taking, and he does eventually move out of the way. But that is the thing: when you're leading the race, you do get really nervous coming up onto the back markers.
Yes, indeed. That would be Romain Charren, who's just got out of the way there, again in that Mercedes, which is obviously not helping, but the grey, sort of like gunmetal grey with yellow and pink highlights. But this driver has been in so much control in this race. Had a little bit of trouble at the start, but either way has dominated the entire 20 minutes in the opening race here in the ACL Challenge at Valkenburg. He comes across the line and Thibaut Prevost wins the opening race of the season. Ludo de Monte is going to hang on to second position behind, and Luca Becker rounds out the podium. Absolutely super stuff. Luca Becker had to work for that one, considering the battle with Mark Becker a bit earlier on in the race. Dylan Mertz will cross the line inside the top 5. Then Kouros, Forte, Mikel Valentini managed to get inside the top 10 as we saw, and it's up to 9th position. And then Leslie and Theo in 10th place. Absolutely super stuff though.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Valentini, it's not all over for him at all. Did a great job to actually recover as a battle on the last lap for 14th and 15th here. But Valentini, it's not all over for him because he still has this reverse grid race to recover. And versus Prevost, he's a good 8 places, actually good 12 places in front of him for the reverse grid race, so he can gain some points back on someone he potentially could have been fighting for the race lead.
And Valentini received a 30-second post-race time penalty, so never mind on that one.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Either way, not ideal. So that's dropped him further back, but it will move him a bit further up in the reverse grid race. We'll put 20 minutes back onto the clock, and we'll see what they are able to do. Thibaut Prevost, though, winning the first race of this season. Ludo de Monte and Luca Becker rounding out the podium. The full reverse grid will be coming up straight after this.
Race Room, Ihre Partner für professionelle Racing-Simulatoren. Für zu kaufen oder für zu lohnen. Kommt sie einfach testen. Bei Race Room vom 1. April und zum Monerisch auf der ACL Kartingspiste.
Wow, I mean, what an opening race of the season there, Zach. And I get the feeling that this race is going to be full of more. Whilst it is a tight and twisty circuit, it is certainly one that is clearly very raceable.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, the two Beckers showed us that well and truly. Turn 1 and 2 all the way through 3 and down 4 and 5. You can go side by side if you have the respect between you and the other driver. And of course, with the reverse grid race, we've got I say quick drivers, but they're all very quick. But those at the sharp end, those towards the front, those in our top 3, they're going to be right at the back. They're going to want to fight their way through. And those that finish 2nd, 3rd, 4th, they have an opportunity to do even better in this race and gain some points on such a dominant drive from P1. They can move forward and get their own back if they can carve their way through the field. And it is all about patience, finding your moment, and just capitalizing, being able to slip your way through, but also equally staying out of trouble.
The ACL Challenge has started with a bang. A reminder, if you want to take part in the next round of the championship at Sonoma, you certainly could do so. All qualification will be open after this on the Race Room service, Race Room Racing Experience, which you can download for free through Steam. As you're going to take part in the competition, it's going to be an awful lot of fun, I must say, if this racing has been anything to go by. Pedro Goncalves will start from the pole position with Mateus Pereira alongside on that front row. The lights are on, and we are getting ready to get underway once again here at Valkenburg as we race our way down to turn 1. I think it's a much better start from Pereira on the outside of that front row, and he's going to take the lead on that run down to the first corner. All a lot of side-by-side, of course, naturally, exactly what you expect. Look at the background, though, because our race winner last time, Thibaut Prevost, was a little bit patient. There is someone backwards. That is Cesar Almeida, who's gone for a spin down at turn 1. But Pereira, with the big launch, had the whole shot and has the race lead.
Yeah, absolutely. A perfect start from Pereira over Goncalves, and just has to go in this blue and the white car. Sailing off and just needs to get some clear air. Of course, Goncalves might be able to put up a fight versus Volta, who's going to the left-hand side towards the final corner. Is Goncalves going to be able to defend that one, or is Volta going to go the long way round through the final corner? Indeed so. Oh, he's pushed him round. That is such a shame. And clumsy, I guess it could say, from Goncalves, as everyone just tries to avoid him. But that's how easy it can be sometimes, all in the favour of Pereira, who now has a bit of clear air. Here comes Zachariah to the inside of turns 1 and 2, as everyone just tries to find a way through.
Yeah, the white, yellow and black car, that one's Huberty. The other white car that's trying to come through, that one is Valentini, who's trying to make up amends for the earlier race. There's Teo in the middle. This is exactly what we expect from a reverse grid race. It is just chaos. Who was that? It was just completely backwards in the middle of all of that. Alves gets spun around as well. I think it was Jeff Jans who was backwards coming through the third corner. Absolute chaos in this race. Just... I mean, it's a bit hard to dodge when you're on track when you've got all this going on.
Yeah, absolutely, especially if you're sort of right amongst that midfield. You have got, because you're trying to react to the guys in front of you, but you've also got, you know, a good 5-6 people behind you that if you slow down will just hit you into the rear end. So it is just that concertina effect as everyone tries to find a way through. A move in towards turn 1, 2 by 2 they go, and as Leia under pressure from Teo goes around the outside of turns 1 and 2, still side by side because you can really still get a good drive towards 3. But yeah, everyone just trying to funnel their way through. Mertz and both Beckers unable to really make much progress. Same with Prevost, as they've made up a couple of places in this opening melee, but they're really not amongst the front, and still, once again, cars going off left, right and centre. Yeah,
that one's Tom McKeel, who's just been spun around a little bit. There's Kouros that's defending from Mertz, from Becker, Luca Becker, and then Mark Becker. He's now got a bit of side-by-side as well. Getting very, very dicey mid-pack. Oh my goodness, that was a big defence from Kouros, who then gets sent down the inside because Mertz having a look. There's a little bit of a brush between the two as they all try and funnel their way through. And it was Mark Becker that was also trying to get in the Graham pink car. There's 3 wide running down into turn 1. That's exactly what we focus on here as Mark Huberty, Laya and then Teo all go side by side. Just absolute chaos. And there's been a spinner in the background.
Yeah, indeed so. That is what we've come to expect over the last couple of laps of action. That is Prevost. Oh, that is such a shame. That's how easy it can be. You go so dominant from one race and then flip the grid on its head, and it can all go sour in a matter of laps. And that is heartbreaking. Another car off into the grass as well. And that just goes to show how tough this circuit is. And of course, when you've got 25 cars, you know, barreling around it so close together, these things happen.
Yeah, a little bit of contact there as well as Shiren gets into the back of Ludo De Monte, who's made a good amount of progress in this race, already inside the top 10. Valentini is trying to attack Goncalves as well, by the way, for second spot. And Valentini, who's looking for a victory after the disappointments in the opening race. Kouros gets down the inside of Shiren, who now has to worry about Luca Becker, who's going around the outside of the second corner. Absolutely brilliant once again. Mertz also comes through, a little bit of contact between the two. Shiren just drifting off of the white line a little bit. And then Mertz, who was trying to get around the outside in that very distinctive blue car, wasn't able to make that one stick. Mark Becker also wasn't able to. Mark Becker's being spun around by McKeel as well, as there's the move. Goncalves having to worry about Valentini, who's gone around the outside at the final corner, and boom, he's up in a second. Zachariah also on the scene.
Indeed so, going to look to the right-hand side, going to try and follow Valentini through, giving him the squeeze towards turn 1, but Goncalves going to go the long way around, keep him honest through 2, and now we've got a 4-car train for second place, but you have to bet that Valentini is going to try and set his sights on Pereira, get away from this pack and just push forward once again. That is Cryer, I think, going off through turn 2. Mertz tries to find a way through, smacks into the back of him as everyone tries again to just funnel their way through a gap, and just look at how everyone's concertina together. Another car being spun around, a huge crash with multiple cars involved, and well, yeah, this reverse grid is absolute melee and carnage.
Yeah, comparative to the first race of the evening, which was absolutely superb. This one's slightly less so. Drivers really going out with some feisty fisticuffs. I almost thought I was watching a British touring car race at the moment. It's just absolute madness out there, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very entertaining, so at least there's that. I'm not too disappointed. I think race control might be a little bit post-race, as there is the look to the inside, a couple of positions ahead. That was De Monte trying to get down the inside of Huberty. Little bit too deep there from Kouros as well. He's going to lose out and drop to the rear end of this train, even with a bit of a spin, as Prevost also working his way back up the order, currently in 12th position. So despite having that sort of half spin, he's still working his way back up inside the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what, you know, separates the good from the great. You know, Prevost has got some fantastic pace, showed it in race 1, had an unfortunate start to race 2, but brushed it off, pushed forward, and is now trying to make some progress back towards the top 10. And that's the thing, in a race like this, where as a driver, you know, you can see the carnage that's going on. You can sort of bet, as Zachariah once again going for the move, bit of contact side by side as they go towards turns 1 and 2. Goncalves going to try and go for the double under and over through 2, side by side through 3. Zachariah going to give him the squeeze, edges himself ahead, and up into third place. But as a driver, you know there's carnage going on, and you know if you get involved in it, other people are as well. And Goncalves going for a desperate lunge and has spun Zachariah around.
Yeah, certainly was, and Goncalves having to worry as Potato also comes through. Bremire also there. Zachariah managed to get back onto the race circuit in 8th spot, but looked for a little bit of a dive from Luca Becker coming down to this section. He was certainly looking, and the room was given for Dante Zachariah, just trying to leave the door slightly open, understanding that Luca Becker was going to go for it there. But now look at the train coming through. Chorus is also going to have a look, but Zachariah manages to at least carry the speed through the final corner of the track to at least hold on to 9th.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is reminiscent very much so of a karting race where if you lose one place, you can certainly bet that you are going to lose a couple more because everyone's just locked so close. Here's Cora's going to go the long way around as Zachariah, who gets swallowed up, goes underneath him again through 2 and the long way round of 3. So manages to stay in front, but that's the thing in karting races, which a lot of these drivers are going to have to get used to very quickly, is that everyone's so close, nose to tail. You lose one place, everyone behind you is going to try and bully their way through, force their way through that gap that's going to be pried open by someone going for a move, and then you lose one place, you're going to lose at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 in some extreme cases.
What, 7 minutes down in this race, 13 more to go. Valentini is closing in very quickly on our race leader of Pereira. There's a look to the inside. Mark Becker trying to get past Chorus, but the outside line does seem to prevail through. I keep calling it the final corner. It's kind of technically the penultimate corner, but I'm not really counting that final kink as being the final actual corner, even though technically it is. Looking down to the first chicane, it was more a defence there from Mark Becker as McKeel is right on the case. You saw a slightly different line there coming out of the exit of the chicane because Zachariah did bring it all the way over to the left to sort of bring it through the right hander nicely, cleanly, without putting in too much steering effort to carry all the speed through.
Yeah, absolutely. Just setting yourself up for the sequence of corners in front. Yes, you can take a little bit more speed through one, but that's going to compromise you through the next couple of corners. And it is all about that rhythm. It's the net gain over the lap as a whole, not just through one corner, but you can see Mark Becker sending one to the inside of the penultimate corner. Lovely little move there, and has now got a good run down the pit straight to maybe put some pressure on Zachariah as they go through what is actually the final corner. And you can see, give him a bit of a push, looking to the right-hand side. How late can he be under brakes? You can see Zachariah just demotivating that one. Here comes Becker to the inside, and you can see Mikel also trying to look to find a way through, but I think Goris got completely and utterly mugged there by these 3 cars.
But I think it was more because it was a mistake from Chorus. I think he overcooked it a little bit into the final corner because you could sort of see him dragging quite high up the circuit, and you'd normally suspect the outside line you'd at least be able to stay alongside running around there. This is the battle for 4th place, and Goncalves is still causing a couple of issues for those on the grid. Laya, who's now in 5th spot, obviously was qualified to and slated to start the first race of the evening from the front row, wasn't able to do so, and now we're going to have a little bit of 3 wide for 5th. Bremire and Demonte with that inside line really commits to it, try and pick these white cars apart. Demonte at least gains 1 and is up into 6th place. Laya manages to hang on to 5th.
Lovely bit of racing between these 3 there. Great respect shown, not a lot of contact, which is thankful. I think now we're sort of nearly halfway through. It's settled down just a little bit, touch wood. But yeah, 3 wide into turns 1 and 2. That's not something that's often worked over the course of the evening, but they certainly made it work to a decent amount. Now Laya can sort of set his sights towards Goncalves, get himself inside the top 4, but you know, being a car that's been on the chase, you've seen how aggressive Goncalves has been against other people. Does that affect your approach? Do you then sort of take more of a cautious approach? As we can see, he might actually go for the move now.
Yes, he will. Look at this, down the inside from Laya. He's really sending it in there, but Goncalves is trying to hang it around the outside. There is contact between the 2. Might have been a little bit too much of a pinch there from Laya. Goncalves has opened the door as well, potentially for Demonte to come through, but isn't able to do so. Goes around the outside, coming through the long right-hander. It's almost carousel-esque based on some other corners and other circuits that we've seen, but either way, Laya has managed to get past Goncalves. I think you're kind of right, like, you do weigh up your opponents and race them differently depending on how they've been racing everyone else, but sometimes when they've been a little bit dirty with everyone else, you think, I'm just going to send it on this kid and I'm going to get this done. That's exactly what Ludo de Monte's done, and has managed to get himself inside the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you've got to fight fire with fire and just give it back. Sometimes be aggressive back, and there's not exactly much they can do. Don't let them push you around. That's exactly what Demonte has done, and up in it to 5th place. Looking towards the front too, Valentini has really closed that gap on Pereira to now 1.1. Side by side between Mark Becker and is this Premier up towards turn 4. Still side by side as they dip down towards 5 and 6. Luca Becker keeping them honest there, side by side, and still going at it. But you know, the more time they they fight, the more time they're going to lose to those in front. Still side by side, so it goes to show that if you give for each other a bit of respect, you can certainly put on a good show.
Yeah, great move again from Luca Becker. Saw that great first race between Luca Becker and Mark Becker going through the first chicane. Absolutely super stuff, but now they've got to deal with Goncalves, who's directly ahead now. It has been a great drive so far from Luca Becker, just to work up the order so efficiently. And you got to think, right, at this point of the race, as a driver, when you've come through a little bit too deep there from Goncalves, and this might open the door for Luca Becker to send one coming up and over the rise, but you can't get to this point in the race. You get to like 5th or 6th, 7th or whatever, and you think, right, well, the checkered flag will be out soon. And you look at the time and you think, hang on, it's still 8.5 minutes. And you think, actually, I might be able to get another podium here.
Might as well go for it. And here comes Valentini, I think, on the outside of Pereira.
Easily
towards
done.
turn 1. Easily done. Is Pereira going to put up much of a fight? Valentini just covering off the inside nicely, getting the car stopped and pushing on. And this is a great recovery, a resurgence from Valentini after his misfortunes in race 1 to bounce back and now take the lead of race 2. Here comes Luca Becker on the outside of Goncalves. Really not much room there. You can see squirming a little bit under brakes. Going to try to go the long way around. And you can certainly see he's in 7th place now. Goncalves is 6th. The 2 in front of him will be P5 and P4, and the way this race has gone, you just get it to the checkered flag, there's a good chance that someone in front of you will make that mistake. So that's exactly what he needs to do. Just like that in front. Is that Liar going round? Indeed it is. And well, that's another place gain for Becker, and he's only got a couple of seconds up to Demont as well. So this could certainly still be a good race for Luca Becker.
Yeah, here comes that move to the inside. So already got alongside Goncalves coming into the real final corner, into that last heavy braking zone, and boom, the position goes the way of Luca Becker. Bremeier was also there to try and fight his way through. Actually made a little bit of contact, which actually assisted Luca Becker to go and make that move. Pulls over to try and break the slipstream. Goncalves was looking to make a dive into the first corner. They all hooked their way through that first chicane, and Luca Becker absolutely up into 5th spot. Big shame there for Liar, who seemed to have decent pace earlier on in the event, but now, that basically this has been a complete throwaway here at Falkenberg.
Yeah, basically, and they've only got 2 more races left of this short little championship, so there's not much time to actually recover from it. But they just have to maximise the opportunities they do have. Here comes Mark Becker diving one to the inside of the final corner. If you can claim to that apex, you don't certainly have a much shorter run. Bit of side-by-side action. Is that Goncalves going round? Indeed, it is. That is a big off and off into the barriers. Mark Becker just forces his way through, and well, Goncalves now out of the way, and he can push forward. Has a bit of clear air to get after Luca Becker and Demonte in front.
I thought it was just the angle, but I thought he had a terrible rejoin there. But no, it was a big off and a big oof as well. Unfortunately for Goncalves, dropping right down the order outside of even the top 15, and that is a very poorly car that Goncalves has right now. That is him in the middle of this pack. Got Alves directly behind. Got Charen in there as well. Made a little bit of contact there with Jeff Jans, who I think was more trying to send a message to Goncalves there. It was a bit. Probably was serving a slowdown penalty, wasn't it, through the first chicane? That one makes sense. Continued to make contact with the rear end of Pedro Goncalves. I wonder if there's been contact between these two earlier on in the race, based on how they're racing right now.
Essentially so, yeah, and might just want to get his own back a little bit and say, hey, I remember earlier Goncalves sending it very deep into the final corner as well. No, it's that Mercedes has certainly seen better days, and when I said in race 1 where damage wasn't on, it certainly looks to be the complete opposite. Another car off through the final corner. I think that is that Cryer going off potentially. No, yeah, indeed it is, and well, that is unfortunate. The car seems to be a little bit better, but overall, Alves, that is certainly suboptimal for him.
Certainly is, which for a Team Redline driver, I'm not sure that's the same Team Redline as dominating right at the top of sim racing, but still, here's the move to the inside from McKeel, just trying to get down Zachariah's inside into that final corner. Has Velter as well directly behind. Carmen Forte is a little bit further off the back of the trim, but still right in knocking distance to try and make a move at some point in this. There was Velter having a look down the inside of McKeel, but no position switches happened. I think, by the way, to go back to an early thing, by the way, when Valentini took over the race lead, Pereira's done a great job to not fight it too hard and just basically hang on to the coattails of Valentini, at least for a little while, because it's stopped any chance of the likes of Daniel De Cruz, Picciotto to be able to close in, because it's like an 8-second gap. At this point, with 4.5 minutes left to go, that is not changing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Pereira, we've seen how, the more you fight, the more risk you take in doing it, not just slowing yourself down, but also the likelihood of a crash happening. And Pereira has got this position to do well in this race. Valentini, he's going to come through. Pereira knows that. His pace over Pereira is... There's such a big difference. The fact he's pulled out a 4.5-second gap in a few laps goes to show that. So Pereira knows that. He knows what's realistic, and to fight so hard to keep a driver like Valentini behind, chances are you're going to end up in a crash, and that potential first place that will probably end up being second place anyway can quickly turn into fourth, fifth, sixth place very, very quickly. So he's certainly done the right thing there, and can just maintain this gap now and bring it home for second place, as opposed to taking that risk. And second place, especially in a championship like this where it's so topsy-turvy, especially as we've seen with this reverse grid race where it can be so up and down, so unpredictable, to secure a second place, that's some good points.
I mean, I come from the world of touring car racing. I'm more of a touring car specialist, and anyone I've always told this to people was like, play the long game in the race. And I was like, yeah, but it's touring cars and stuff. I'm like, so? Like, touring cars, it doesn't matter what the racing is, whether it's 10 minutes, 15, 20, an hour, 24. It doesn't matter how long the race is. There is always a thing about playing the long game and knowing when to attack and when not to. And that one for Pereira, there was no need to fight for that. Maybe maybe you could have won the race, sure, fair enough. But you could have also lost an awful lot of points. Whereas this is all about points. It's all about scoring points to try and get yourselves to the semi-finals. Why would you throw away so many points trying to desperately win a race that you don't necessarily need to win? Just hoover up the points and play the long game. That's exactly what's been played by Pereira, and less so from others. Velter is watching McKeel try and look down the inside of Zachariah coming down into the first corner. This all the battle for 9th place, and 5 cars involved in that train.
Absolutely, they've all just sort of gotten off into their own little groups, and it has been a chaotic race. There's been, there's been sights of some really, really good racing indeed, some nice respect for racing. But yeah, it certainly has been carnage and chaos in this reverse grid race, which is to be expected at a track like here, because yeah, it's tight, it's twisty, there's not much space to go through, and if one person spins, more than likely they are going to collect everyone up. And yeah, these are some of the best of the best, so you can expect that just a little bit. This is Peixoto. He's got a couple of cars. He's got Demonte and Becker just behind for company now, and this could certainly get spicy for this fight for the podium, because as we were saying, it's a podium, it's 3rd place, it's a pretty decent result in a race of attrition such as this one, and with time dwindling down, opportunities dwindling down, they're certainly going to be fighting for this one.
And for the likes of Ludo Demonte and Luca Becker, who scored well in the first race, I mean, this isn't sort of like a necessity to make this move. But still, if you can get yourselves to having another podium, then essentially you're putting one hand on at least moving through into the semi-final. Like quite easily there, you'll be almost guaranteeing it at that point, even if you didn't show up in a couple of weeks' time at the Sonoma round. So, I mean, very, very impressive so far from these to have risen up the order in the fashion they have. One more position to go, and they'll have 2 more laps to make that one stick. Valentini coming round to start. It should be 3 more laps, because Valentini will be coming round the final sector around now to start. It's actually very close, but should be starting the penultimate lap of this race about now.
Yeah, so not long left at all. Demonte in the worst place probably of this little train, because he's having to look forward, wants to get past for P3, but also has to keep Luca Becker behind as well, who certainly looks a lot closer to Demonte than Demonte does to Peixoto, having to go to the right-hand side to defend. Here comes Luca Becker to the left-hand side. How late can he be on the brakes to try and go the long way around? We saw him do it in race 1, unable to do so. Here comes Demonte going for that move for P3. Side-by-side, bit of contact as he's sent sideways. Luca Becker tries to find a way through, and through all of that, they're still 3, 4, and 5 as they were.
Yes, they are. Final corner for Valentini, who's just about to start the final lap of this race. And the timer ticks down. There will be enough time for one more lap, which I am all for when they're racing like this for 3rd place, because it's absolutely super stuff. Luca Becker's not able to make a move just yet. Into that final braking zone they go. And this is them, what would essentially be the white flag, the final lap of the race about to begin. This is going to be, it's got to be a pretty bold move, surely.
Yeah, gloves off to the end. Just push for this final lap. Absolutely go for it. But the Cruz Peixoto just has to keep it clean, keep it tidy, and bring it home for P3. Done a fantastic job. Hasn't been under any pressure. But now this final lap will surely test his absolute skill. As you can see, Luca Becker looking to the inside of Demonte.
Well, final corner, Valentini's just coming through it now, and Tom Valentini is going to win. Top pre-qualifying coming into this, and didn't look so strong in that first race, courtesy of a couple of issues and a drive-through to deal with, but this race is all about Valentini, completely dominant. And there is Pereira across the line to take second, and a super haul of points. But behind this is that tight fight for third, and Peixoto is going to grab it just at the line. Ludo de Monte is going to give it a bit of a drag race up there. It's separated by hundredths of a second, but it is de Monte and Luca Becker behind Peixoto who takes the final stop on the podium.
Well, that was certainly that was a couple of races, to say the least. You know, race 1 we had some carnage and chaos, but race 2 we pretty much amplified that by magnitude of 10. It was chaos, it was carnage, and we also had some fantastic side-by-side action. So yeah, certainly got the season off to a good start, and well, yeah, certainly looking forward to the next one.
I think there'll be a lot of drivers on the grid that will be happy with their results, and I think there'll be even more that have been very disappointed with the way the round goes. But that's how racing is, I'm afraid. That is just how it goes. Valentini then taking the victory with Pereira de Cruz Peixoto behind in that third spot. De Monte and then Luca Becker, and then Mark Becker in 6th position. Bremeier in 7th, Kouros, and then Zachariah, McKeel as well, rounding out the top 10. As you can see, scrolling down, there is quite a few disqualifications on this list for breaching those points. Forte, Goncalves, Sharon, Sheffen getting a DQ as well, Huberty and Mertz all receiving DQs. I'm not surprised that list is so high. Also 3 extra DNFs to add to the list. It has been a crazy start to the season, and a reminder to all of you sat at home, you can come and take part. Those that can take part in the competition by following the rules and regs and stuff. You can come over onto Racing Experience. You can come and qualify for the next round in a couple of weeks' time at Sonoma, and then join this crazy grid and this crazy competition. From myself, Lewis McGlade, and from Zach Sweeney as well, here in the ACL Challenge Season 2. We'll wish you a very warm good night.
Race Room, Ihre Partner für professionelle Racing-Simulatoren. Für zu kaufen oder für zu lohnen. Kommt sie einfach testen. Bei Race Room vom 1. April und zum Monerisch auf der ACL Kartingspiste.